So now you kind of have mapped this out and you've got your hypotheses written down. It's time to go out and talk to customers. And that is actually what we are going to do next. So my challenge to you this week, now that you've gone through chapters 1 and chapters 2, is to use this sheet, which is linked below, to actually go out and go find those customers, go actually get in front of them in person or via Skype or Google Hangouts if you can. I've given you some email templates that I've used to schedule meetings with people. And you can just, or you can just walk into their business and say, hey, I'm an entrepreneur from the area. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I have this idea that I'm working on and I think it will benefit your business. And I'm really curious to learn more and hear what your thoughts are. Is it okay? Like, what are your thoughts on taking 15 minutes of your time to talk? The key here is to make sure that you're using open-ended questions. So don't ask yes or no questions. You want to get the customer talking as much as possible, and do not pitch your startup in the beginning of the conversation. If they ask you what you're working on, say, hey, I'm going to tell you in just a minute, but I need to ask you some questions. I don't want to bias your answers. So can you please can we just take a few minutes for me to ask you about this? So in this example, I talk about the screen printing software. I'm trying to understand their current situation. So tell me about the software you use to run your business. I might not even say screen printing software. I might be even more high level than that. Tell me about the software you use to run your business. Give me some examples of that. I might even ask, like, why is this software important to you? Tell me more about that. And you just keep layering, and you're literally writing down every word that comes out of their mouth right now, because throughout this whole interview, you're getting the language that they use to describe their problem and the solutions that they like and don't like. And that's going to translate directly into your marketing copy on your landing page and all the content that you write on your blog and pretty much everything else that you do to market and promote your product. The next thing you want to understand is their problem. So what challenges do you face with your current software solutions, or what challenges do you face with your business right now? I think this is an important thing to come up to bring up right now. You don't always, you're coming into this with a hypothesis about what the challenges are that they face and the problem that you're trying to solve, but it may not be their top priority. Maybe it's like 5 down the rung from the top priority. And if you're not solving one of the top 3 priorities, it's going to be a tough sell. Or the sales cycle might be pretty long for you to get in the door and get them paying for your product. So it's something to consider here, and it's something to really listen for. Like, what are their top priorities? What are their pain points? A huge part of this process, just getting out of the building, is finding a problem to solve. Like, you think you have a problem that you can solve, but you might find something totally different that's interesting to you that you end up solving. And oftentimes that's what happens. Most ideas when they start out suck, but if you go through this process, you'll find a good idea. You'll find a real problem that they're willing to pay for. So listen to this part really carefully. When they tell you they have a challenge, ask for examples. Why is that a problem? Give me an example of that. Can you be specific? What's the impact of that in your day? How would you quantify that impact? So literally you want to get, like, how many man hours was lost? How much money did they spend? Get a number. Put as much as you can, quantify this problem. Again, this is going to help you figure out, what are their metrics for success, and write that stuff into your copy and your landing page. It'll show them that you actually know about their problem and have empathy for what they're experiencing. The next thing you want to ask is, like, what's your ideal solution for solving this problem? Now, this is not necessarily mean that you're going to take what they say and make it your product, because they may not know it's possible, right, with technology or anything else, and you may have a vision for that product, but you do want to see if you're on the right track and how they describe the solution, because, again, you're going to be able to use these words in all of your sales process and marketing efforts. Then once they tell you what that ideal solution looks like, what's the benefit? This is where you understand those gains or pain relievers. So how, if they've told you some pains, be like, how might it increase X? If one of their, if they said a pain is like lost 20 man hours. So how many more man hours would you get per week or save per week if you had this type of solution? Now, once you've taken really deep notes, you've asked lots of layering questions, you're asking why a lot, you're getting all these notes, now it's time to tell them a story. And you want to tell them a story about what you're working on, and how it solves their problem. And if you, at this point, since it's your first 5 interviews, You just want to get their information, like capture it, be like, hey, what are your thoughts on staying in touch? We're building this product. I'd love to come back to you with a prototype and get your feedback. What are your thoughts on giving me your phone number or email address so we can stay in touch? Later on, once you have like even just mock-ups and you go back and show them and they love it, that's when you're going to want to ask for your first purchase order or your first sale, even before you've written a single line of code. And we'll talk more about that down the line here in the traction sections. So tell them a story now. Now it's okay to talk about your product only after you've actually gone through the whole interview process and not biased them. And just listen a lot. Like this whole process is about getting them to talk. So once you're done, it's time to debrief. And if you have a co-founder or a partner, it's so much easier to do this process because one of you guys can be taking notes while the other one's conducting the interview and just listening. After this, go sit down with your team and debrief and use the entrepreneur's mindset. So we just made these hypotheses about the decision-making process and who our customer is. Here's what we thought. So here's what we did. We went to these businesses and spoke to them, and here's all the things that we learned, and here's what I'm doing next, and here's what I'm keeping in mind while I'm doing it. So this is the entrepreneur's mindset. I use it as kind of a check-in or a gut check every time I kind of come back from a sprint of experiments or a sprint of customer discovery, and use it to assess where I'm at and if this is still worth working on. So you're constantly checking in. Probably every week or every 2 weeks you should be doing this. So with that, go ahead, take this information, go talk to 5 to 10 customers, and when you're done, come back and fill these sheets in with real answers. You got hypotheses now. It's time to go out and get some real answers and some real data. And once you're done, I'll see you in chapter 3. Hit us up in the Facebook group or online. And if you have any questions, I'm here to help.